Dumelang, Dumelang. Clearly, I'm excited this morning. It is currently 8:50. Might look backwards to you, but anyways, um, well, wash my face, brush my teeth, and I'm just excited to get into this DIY. I don't know if I'm excited because I don't have to go to the store and buy materials and everything because I bought that yesterday. Um, and I think I like getting into a DIY when I wake up and I get right into a DIY. I'm so excited. I'm being so rude. My name is Reneilwe. I also go by the name Rennie. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe if you're into makeovers, renovations, DIYs, decorative DIYs. We are the people for you. Even if you like shopping with us, shopping hauls. If you're into home decor, this channel is for you. And if you're returning Sabi, welcome back, welcome family. You know what it is, you know how we do here at the CHL, Creative Home Living. Obviously, that's what it stands for. If you're new, but anyways, I know that you are gonna join the family and you're gonna subscribe because we are a lovable family. I'd like to believe that. But anyways, as I was still saying, I'm all over the place. I'm excited because I don't know if it's because it's DIY. I think it's gonna be simple. I don't like saying those words out loud because as soon as you say that, things turn out complicated. Somehow the universe doesn't want me to think I'm coming into something easy because if I say it out loud, then they make it difficult. But anyways, we always try to figure it out. It's not a big deal if I say but anyways one more time. I can't say take a shot. I don't want to condone drinking. But take a shot. In this world we live in, take that shot. It's okay. It's allowed. But anyways, go right ahead and take that shot. We're gonna get into this DIY. We are in the fall season. I am a bit late with this content. I wanted to do this way before we get into the fall season, but I do know that these DIYs that I'm going to be bringing to you, I was in my bedroom, by the way. If you missed that bedroom makeover, I will link it up here and down below. So what I was saying was, I know most of these DIYs. What I like about fall and decorations. Those are our materials, by the way. What I like about fall decorations, it's more like a preparation for winter. We're moving towards the cold season, so that means we start getting throw blankets that look warm and fuzzy, and obviously maybe they're not overly warm because some fall seasons or some autumns are not that cold. Here in Gauteng, however, it's been cold since fall started. It's what is this? What is this, honey? But anyways, we are gonna prepare. Oh, take a shot. We're gonna get into this DIY. I'm gonna quickly change and then we are gonna start with this DIY. So these are the materials we are going to need. This DIY is so simple, it doesn't need a lot of materials, not even power tools. If you don't have any power tools, don't worry, you can always use a sandpaper, you can always use a handsaw. However, I have a few power tools at my disposal, so I'm going to make use of those. But however, if you don't have them, it's not a train smash. So what I started off by doing was measuring or seeing how I want my letter to be spaced out, seeing what works and seeing what I don't like. So I'd step back and then see if it will work, and then just to help me visualize, I started to use a blanket to see how it would hang off my letter, just so I can get a clear picture. Sometimes you gotta do what you have to do to visualize something to the T. So I was just working out also how many steps would I want my letter to have. Bear in mind, this is not a step letter where you can step on and everything like that. This is just a decorative step letter. So now that I've worked all of that out, I started measuring how much I'm gonna cut off my main wood, which is basically the legs of my letter or the sides of my letter. And I started cutting off the ends of it because
the wood from Leroy Merlin, they do mark it off in colors, so sometimes it's yellow at the ends or orange at the ends. So I ensure that I measure it out at the ends and cut off both ends just so that it's plain wood and I can get rid of the color. Well, in this case, I am ensuring that I put safety first. I'm putting on my glasses, my gloves, and ensuring that I stay safe. Usually, as of late, I've been skipping the safety part, but anyways, this time around I am ensuring that I stay safe. So I'm just quickly cutting that part off. I was so lazy to change the blade on my jigsaw, so sometimes some of the wood needed 2 passes just so I can get the cut through. However, with a handsaw, you should be able to get it done. I mean, although it is gonna take a bit of elbow grease depending on how thick the wood is and also what kind of wood you're dealing with. Pine wood is usually softer than other kinds of wood, so it should be a whole lot easier. Once I was done cutting, I decided to sand off the ends. In this DIY, I ensured that I take my time and I don't rush, because that's when the mistakes come in, and also that's when the finish is not too perfection if you actually go through it very fast. So I just ensured that I must take my time, and besides, I already knew that it was going to be a very simple DIY coming into it. I just want to let you guys know that this DIY took me 3 hours total, and that is with drying time included. So that's how easy and fast this was. Now that I've cut my wood to size, it's time for me to cut my dowel to size. This is the best part about DIYs. You get to customize everything. I wanted 4 horizontal wooden dowels on my ladder. You can either add or subtract. You could also play with different sizes. You can go, you can create a triangular shape and go with shorter and then longer at the end, or you can go with the same sizes, or you can decide if you don't want dowels, you can make it thick wood as well. So this is where you get to be creative, and this is where your style will come through, because you get to actually decide how you want it to look. So I started measuring out what the size I want. I'm going to place the sizes in the description box of my ladder if you guys want to go with the plans that I have in terms of sizes. I'm going to leave that in the description box. So I just measured out 1 dowel to my liking, to the size that I wanted. But what I will give you guys tip on is that don't go measuring each and every single dowel. I don't like doing that, because if you make a mistake on one, it's not gonna line up. So I'd rather cut 1 dowel and then use that 1 dowel as a template of where I should cut the next one, so that if I make a mistake on the first one, the mistake will continue on all of them and they'll still line up at the end of the day, so it won't be a train smash, as opposed to cutting something too short and then not being able to fix it after that and having to go back to the store for more materials. So now that I have measured out where I want to cut it, I took my jigsaw and I cut it off, which is very easy. But I'm gonna give you guys advice: hold on to the piece that you don't need and then cut the other piece off that you do need, because I realized that in using a jigsaw, I don't know if this will apply for a handsaw, but however, in using a jigsaw, one of them actually chipped off, but I was glad because it chipped off on the one that I was gonna scrap. So that wasn't a train smash at all. So you can have a look now, because it flew off. That was very violent, come to think of it. So the additional piece was on the piece that I was actually going to use for my ladder, so I just had to cut off that little bit. Hence why I'm saying hold on to the piece that you don't need. That way when something wrong happens, it happens to the piece that you don't need. And then now that everything is lining up, it is time for me to get the sandpaper out. I decided to sand the dowels all around, including at the ends, just so that I can start prepping for when I'm going to start painting and staining. Because as far as these dowels are concerned, this is the last bit of work that I want to do to them before I start assembling everything together. And then I quickly took my 3x3s and I gave them a nice sand. I bought the length of 1.8 meters, but however I did cut off about 10 centimeters if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, like I said, the measurements will be in the comment section, or not the comment section, the description box for you guys if you want to work it out the way I did. And then I started obviously working out how I want my dowels to be spaced on my ladder. So everything is just about me visually working it out. What works, what doesn't work, what do I like, what do I not like. So I realized that I wanted it shorter at the top and a little bit longer at the bottom. And once I worked out how I want my dowels to lay on top of my 3x3s, I started whipping out my measuring tape and measuring where the dowels are going to be and measuring the center point of where I'm going to start drilling holes for the dowels to go in. Everything is pretty much self-explanatory if I'm explaining this in a very complex way, or if you're not catching on to what I'm saying, but it's pretty much self-explanatory. So what I'll do is I'll find the middle point, mark off my middle point. The middle point that I'll mark off, I'm going to use this drill bit to actually drill a hole through and through. So my dowels were 12 millimeters, so I had to get a 12 millimeter drill bit. I think this one is called something different though. So I just ensured that I drill right through the wood to the other side, because I still wanted the dowels to stick through on the other end, so that it gives this nice finish. I just like how you can see the shape of the dowel through the other side of the wood. I just like that look. If you don't like that look, you can simply not drill it through and through, and you can just mark off how much you want to drill into your 3x3s, and then you don't have to put the dowel through your wood. Wow, that is a bit of a tongue twister. That way you can just simply hide the dowel and not really show it on the other end, but I like the look. What I quickly learned though was that where you make your entry point and where the exit point is, your entry point is far more neater than your exit point, but I'll show you that later. Alright, now that I'm done being dramatic, we're gonna go right ahead and drill all the other holes. So I ran a few passes through the wood after I've drilled it through and through, because I realized that I didn't want too much friction when I was adding the dowels, otherwise it would cause me to use a lot of elbow grease in trying to hammer them through, and this helped. So this is how I realized that actually it's neat on the one side and untidy on the other side. So I decided to make the side where the wood would chip the inside part, and then the neater side the outside, because that's the part you're gonna see the most. Gave it a nice sand to ensure that the I get rid of all the splinters and all the parts where the wood was breaking off. You could easily wood fill this, but I'll be honest, I skipped on that part, and honestly you cannot see it on my ladder. Now a great tip is that before you start painting or you start staining or anything like that, you want to wipe your wood clean of any dust. Wipe off the dust and the debris off of whatever you're going to paint or stain. That way the stain and the paint will stick very well and you will have a great finish. However, I should have done this after I assembled it, which I did go back and do that. So you could save yourself wiping it now and actually wipe it down once it's assembled and ready to paint. I guess I was just getting ahead of myself here, and I thought maybe I would paint it before I assemble it all, but then I realized that I should actually assemble it first, then I'll paint and stain it. So in assembling it, I started giving it a dry fit to see if it would work or not, and then started working out what I want to be in the middle, the inside of my ladder and the outside of my ladder. So if I felt that it was not neat, I put it on the inside, and what looked more neat was on the outside. And then I hammered it in, and then ensured I used my spirit leveler to ensure that my ladder is gonna be straight. Although I feel like you also play with it around and not make it straight, and probably slant the wood going up or down or however else you want to. That would also be a nice look on the ladder for your blankets. However, I just wanted mine simple. I wanted mine to look a little bit on the modern side, but not too modern, by not painting it all the way black. So just ensuring that I have everything level. I'll be honest, it wasn't 100% level. It was right. It was in the middle, but always like either middle left or middle right. It wasn't dead on in the middle. So adding some wood glue to ensure that this doesn't go anywhere. I would say you can use gloves, but what I've noticed about wood glue is that when it comes to contact with your skin, it easily just peels off. So it looks like a chemical peel, but it's easy to just get off your hands. It's a stain that I'm not a fan of when it comes to getting it off my hands. And then I took my hammer and started hammering this down. I was first concerned about actually messing up the dowel on top, but I ensured that I was very careful in doing so. Always wipe off any excess glue, because excess glue is hard to stain. That's what I've learned over the few years that I've been DIYing. So always wipe off the glue if you don't want any issues with the finish of your stain. However, with painting, it doesn't really give much of a problem, but it's always nice to actually wipe it off, just, being neat. I realized that trying to assemble it this way was a bit difficult for me because I needed an extra pair of hands to help me hold it in place. But then when you're used to DIYing by yourself, you learn a thing or two. I decided to actually just simply make it lay down, and then I can assemble it that way better by myself. But however, if you have an extra pair of hands to help you out, that would also work. But sometimes you gotta make do with what you have, and at this moment I only have 2 pair of hands and I gotta make it work. So now that I have the dowels on one side, it's time for me to attach them to the other side. Obviously, I had to be careful now because I would be basically hammering down the other side. So what I did was I took a cloth and I protected the 3x3 on the other side from hammer markings. And what I also can give you an idea about is that if you're into that rustic or distressed look, you could intentionally scuff up your leather, give it a bit of, markings from the hammer from either side of the hanger just to distress it a bit, and then stain it so that it can look a bit older and look a bit of antique like. So that's just a bit of an idea that I can give you on this DIY leather, because you don't always have to go copy what I'm doing from start to end. You can always add your own taste to everything, translate a DIY to your liking. That's the whole point of DIYing something, is to translate something to your preferences. So I ensured that I hammered this and then until the dowel could come through on the other end. And then the top one, I actually over hammered it, and I had to hammer it on the inside just so I can get it back to being flush on the other side. So now that we have it completely assembled, it's time for us to sand this over one more time. Like I said, in this DIY, I am not rushing. I am taking my time, ensuring that I get this perfect, because I do want my DIYs to stop looking like they are DIYs and start looking like they are store-bought. And I have received a few compliments on my leather so far. My sister has said that it looks like I bought it from the store. I don't know if she was being biased. But I honestly am proud about my DIY. So now I just picked a stain that will go very well. So that's between the stain that I used on my upholstered chairs and the stain that I used on my slat wall. I went with the one that I used on my upholstered chairs because I still wanted that variation, because most of the things that I've been staining have been the other stain that I used on my slat wall. So I still want a bit of variation in wood tones, because let's be honest, the in thing now is to mix wood tones, but they need to match at the same time, all complement each other rather. So once that I've opened my wood stain, stirred it up and mixed it very well, I started to stain my entire not my entire leather, but up until where I knew I was gonna paint it black, so that I don't waste stain or don't waste time staining. I do like using gloves when I use stain, because getting stain off my hands, I find it more tedious than it is to get paint or to get would glue off my hands. So I'm going in with this acrylic paint, and I'm going to be using a paintbrush. I was basically dry brushing this paint onto my leather. So what I started off by doing was I started off taping where I wanted the black paint to cut off, just so I can have a neat or a clean line, shall I say. And then I just worked it, I eyeballed it on the one side, measured it, and then so that I can transfer it to the other side so that it can all line up and be at the same place or same area. So sometimes I can say in this DIY it was mostly about eyeballing and then seeing what looks right and then measuring it out, just so that everything is equal or even or evenly spaced. Alright, now that I have painted the bottom part and it has dried, I am going to give it a quick clear coat of this Rust-Oleum clear satin spray paint.